Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast. The podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and I'm really excited to bring you this week's episode, which is all about my trip to Italy in July and August 2025. I haven't been back for long, so it's still fresh in my head, and I want to share with you in this first part of 2 episodes about this trip. I want to share with you what I ate and especially how what I ate affected me. Because between you and me, during my 2.5-week stay in Italy, I ate more bread, pasta and pizza than in the last 10 years. So how did I react to those foods? That's what I'll share with you in this episode. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at aftersugarclub.com, why not take the cravings quiz? I created this cravings quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at aftersugarclub.com. And also, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. You can also check out my TikTok account at Netta_Life After Sugar. So here we go with part 1 of 2 podcast episodes. The other one will be in a few weeks' time about my trip to Italy and what I ate there, and especially how what I ate affected me after 10 years of being sugar and flour free. First, I need to tell you why we went to Italy. I went with my 17-year-old daughter Lily because in 2023 we had an Italian student staying with us for the school year. In fact, you can listen to episode number 180 about what he taught me about food and carbs. And he was like Lily's big brother for the year. And it was a great experience. They hit it off. And we decided to go visit his family, who lives in Reggio Emilia, which is in the north of Italy, not far from Bologna. So grazie mille to Vania, Marco, Eduardo and Alessandro. So for the last 10 years, in fact since July 2015, I've been pretty much sugar-free, flour-free and sweetener-free and quite happy living that way. And before we left for Italy, I said to myself, all right, Netta, you need to make a decision. You either continue being sugar-free, flour-free and sweetener-free in Italy, or you don't. You decide to eat whatever the Italians are eating. And we were lucky enough to be in a family and not just in tourist areas or in a hotel. So at the same time, if the family is kind enough and generous enough to make food for us, that was also another reason why I wanted to eat whatever they served us. And for me especially, traveling and trying new things, including new foods, are very closely intertwined. In other words, discovering new things and new foods is really an important part of all my travels. And although I'm 100% happy with the way that I've been eating in the last 10 years, it was a conscious decision on my part to try the foods that I was served in Italy, and also out of curiosity to see what would happen, how I would react, whether physically or for my cravings, which I haven't had in 10 years, if I ate the foods that used to trigger me. And our Italian family was well aware that I'm sugar-free. I mean, they follow me on social media and I'm pretty public about it, even internationally. But I told them that I would eat the same thing as them. And the first dish that they prepared for us when we arrived was a pasta dish. Now, I hadn't eaten pasta for about 10 years, so it was a little bit weird for me. But of course it was delicious, especially what was with the pasta, because let's face it, pasta on its own doesn't taste of much. What makes the difference is what goes with it. Well, in my humble opinion at least. And whereas here in North America we tend to put a lot of sauce on pasta, in Italy they're more parsimonious about it, and there's different layers of flavours I found, and of course freshly grated Parmesan cheese, which makes all the difference, and which really isn't the same back home. And speaking of Parmesan cheese, we were in the region where the cheese is made, and so our Italian mom very kindly set up a visit for us at the local dairy where they make Parmesan. And it was a fascinating experience because we got to see all the different stages from receiving the milk, heating the milk, separating the curds from the whey, and all the 101 different stages that are involved in the making of the cheese. And yes, it's definitely more mechanized than in the old days, but I wouldn't say that it's industrialized. And we got to see that the quality of every step of the cheese-making procedure was what counted the most. The goal wasn't to make the cheese fast. The goal was to make the cheese well and to have a quality product at the end of it. And if that takes more time, which it does, then so be it. And if it's less efficient, then also so be it. And it was amazing to see floor-to-ceiling rounds of Parmesan cheese aging patiently for 24 to 36 months. And of course we had a tasting, and well, I was reasonable and only bought 2 kilos. And at pretty much every meal there was bread. And bread is a much bigger trigger for me than pasta. So I was a little bit nervous to have some, but you know, when in Italy, I do as the Italians, and I took some bread, and what I discovered was that it didn't actually trigger me as much as, say, French baguette, and because there was no butter, and instead there was yummy olive oil, just the fact that there was no butter, just that difference made the bread a lot less triggering for me. So I was able to have a piece with some olive oil and leave it at that. Whereas back home, if I started on French baguette or even good sourdough bread with butter, I would just pretty much eat the whole loaf. So how did all that pasta and bread affect me physically? Well, I'll tell you after this short break. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular, and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. All right, so this episode is all about our recent trip to Italy, and I was saying just before the break that I had more pasta and bread and basically flour-based products in the space of 2.5 weeks than I had in 10 years before. And you know how they say that whole grains are supposed to be good for your digestion? Well, maybe for some people they are. But for me, with my digestive system, I don't know whether it was the jet lag, the general change in temperature, or the bread and the pasta themselves, but my digestion went on strike. And to spare you the details, let's just say that I was pretty bloated and my digestion was really slow. It didn't stop me from enjoying my food, but it was pretty uncomfortable. So I suppose one conclusion you could come to is that, well, whole grains aren't the answer for a regular digestion for everybody, and the other conclusion is that we're all different. So another thing that I ate in Italy, which I've eaten a little bit over the last 10 years, is pizza. And actually pizza in Italy is really different from pizza in North America. First of all, Italians don't really eat frozen pizza. In fact, it's pretty much considered not real pizza. And in Italy, pizza changes depending on where you are. So if you're in Naples or Rome or in Sicily or the north of Italy, each region has its own tradition and its own crust and toppings. And actually in Italy, less is more in the sense that toppings are simple, fresh, and there's usually just a few of them like tomato, mozzarella, basil, anchovies, and seasonal vegetables. And what I discovered in Italy is that there's pretty much just one size of pizza, about 12 inches, although I know in Italy they don't use inches, and there aren't, like in North America, family-sized or extra large or whatever. So we had different types of pizzas, one with thicker crust, which was like Naples pizza, and with a thinner, crispier crust, which is what we ate when we were in Rome. One time we ate pizza at a restaurant, and another time we went to a counter where you would choose the type of pizzas that you wanted, and they would cut them up with scissors and sell them by weight. And the other thing that's different in Italy is that the cheese goes under the other toppings and not on top. Unless you're eating traditional style pizza from Naples, where they have fresh mozzarella balls of cheese called mozzarella di bufala campagna, I probably said that wrong, or fior di latte, which are fresh buffalo milk or cow's milk mozzarella, and it's really creamy, not at all like the melted cheese that we find in North America. So instead of being about lots of cheese like in North America, Italian pizza is about the right cheese in the right place. But the main difference is that in Italy, pizza is about tradition, quality, fresh ingredients, and the enjoyment of eating together. It's not a type of fast food, and we actually always ate around the table together, whatever the meal was, and not while we were multitasking or watching a screen. And yes, the pizzas I ate were delicious. And yes, the flour made me bloated and constipated. Even if, in general, Italian flour is lower in gluten and better quality, which is called 00 flour, and is less processed and more digestible than the flour in North America. But for someone like me, after 10 years of eating almost no flour at all, I think I've become extra sensitive to any amount of gluten. But that was the price I was willing to pay to be able to eat like an Italian. And one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about in this episode is the gelato, the ice cream in Italy. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did eat some, but certainly not a huge amount. Because even if Italian gelato usually has about 20 to 30% less sugar than ice cream, it was still way too sweet for me. But I'm curious and I wanted to taste the different flavors. Now, what I retained the most from how Italians relate to their food is that quality comes first. And gelato is designed to highlight the main ingredient. For example, pistachio gelato tastes like pistachios. And strawberry gelato tastes like fresh strawberries. Not like strawberry flavors or strawberry sugar, and certainly not a whole mix of different flavors together. So yes, I did taste a little bit of different flavors, but really not a lot because, as I was saying, my tastes over the last 10 years have changed to such a degree that I don't even like sweet flavors anymore. So the gelato didn't even trigger me. I was worried that it would, but no, it didn't, because it's still too sweet for me. So just a little taste was enough, and I never once felt FOMO, the fear of missing out. I didn't feel restricted. I didn't feel deprived. None of that. But what I did learn was that there's a difference between real artisanal Italian gelato and some of the gelatos that you see in Italy that are in tourist areas and that are actually made for tourists. So, real artisanal natural Italian gelato is made with natural ingredients and it's made fresh with milk, eggs, yes, sugar, and real flavorings like actual pistachios, real fresh fruit, or dark chocolate. No artificial colors, no flavor powders, and so you can tell if it's real gelato by its muted colors. For example, pistachio gelato is pale green or even beige, certainly not neon green. And banana gelato is creamy off-white, not yellow. And mint is often white, not green. And the flavors change depending on what's in season. So you'll get more strawberry gelato in spring and summer, chestnut, for example, in the autumn, and more citrus in winter. And one more thing that I learned is that real Italian gelato is stored in covered tubs called pozzetti. I probably mispronounced that as well. And it's not shown off as big mountains. In fact, the best gelato is hidden away in these containers, and the lid is only taken off when it's time to serve it. So any gelato that has bright colors or is displayed in tall fluffy mounds, all whipped up full of air, may look good, but they're not authentic. All right, so this is the first of 2 episodes about what I ate in Italy, because in the next episode, which will be out in a few weeks' time, I want to talk to you about the relationship that the Italians have with food, or at least the Italians that we were in contact with, and with quality in general, as well as with time. And I also want to tell you about some other things I ate that were a little bit less typical, or rather a little bit less known outside of Italy, or at least I didn't know about them. So look out for that episode in a few weeks' time. And I'm also going to add a video about everything I ate and everything I learned about food in Italy inside of my program, the Freedom from Cravings Formula 12-week program. You don't have to go all the way to Italy to get accountability and guidance and support to help you get rid of cravings and replace them with good quality foods that don't trigger you. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you get control over cravings so that you can finally live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly and feel confident in your food choices so that you can ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life when you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can talk directly to me on a free clarity call at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on Program at the top. You'll also find the link with the show notes together with this episode. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak to you soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.